Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. In the last lesson, we discussed some new words that we are going to encounter in this unit. And today we are going to start the reading. This is how we are going to go about doing it. You will read different paragraphs one at a time, and then you will be answering questions. Pause the video here and silently read these two paragraphs. Then I'm going to ask you questions. Now listen to how I read. Earthquake. This is what happened to Saranjan in an earthquake in Kabul. I still remember that eventful day. March 26, 2002 had dawned bright, sunny, never giving an indication that within 24 hours havoc would flood our lives and indeed remain a part of it for a long time. I was walking through my home city of Kabul in northern Afghanistan on Monday night on my way to Aunt Nazakat's house. I was very excited as my cousins and I had planned a sleepover followed by a hiking trip at the crack of dawn. My aunt lived just a block away from my house, merely a 10 minutes walk. How was I to know that I would not get there? Now let's look at the questions. When did the earthquake take place? What is the name of the main character? Where did the story take place? What does havoc mean? Pause the video here and try to answer all these 4 questions in your notebook. Okay, let's look at the questions again. When did the earthquake take place? We can see in the first paragraph that it took place on March 26, 2002. What is the name of the main character? So Saranjan is the name of the main character, which is written in the first line. Where did the story take place? The story took place in Kabul, which is the city of Afghanistan. What does havoc mean? Havoc has several synonyms, and some of which are devastation, damage, disaster, catastrophe. Now let's look at some more questions. Where was Saranjan going? Why was he so excited? Why do you think he was not able to reach his destination? Pause the video and write the answers. Where was Saranjan going? Saranjan was going to his aunt's house. Paragraph 2, line 2. The next question is, why was he so excited? He was excited because he had made some plans with his cousins. And the plans were that he's going to have a sleepover, and then in the morning he's going to go for a hiking trip with his cousins. And he was excited about it. Why do you think he was not able to reach his destination? Now you have to think why he could not reach his destination. Let's read the next paragraph to find out. Okay, again, pause the video, quietly read the paragraphs, and then listen to my reading. I had barely walked a few dozen feet when I felt the ground shake under me. For a minute, I thought I was having a dizzy spell due to dehydration, for the weather was very hot and dry. I reached for my water bottle. However, when the ground continued to move, a thought came dashing into my mind, making my head throb and quiver with fear. I had no control over my limbs. My arms and legs seemed to move under some mysterious power of their own. Suddenly, I realized it's an earthquake. I don't know how I retraced my steps. It seemed like the longest trip I had ever made. The night was filled with cries of urgency and screams of fear. There were occasional thunderous roars as some of the nearby houses caved in and collapsed as if made of paper. What about my own home? What about my own house? Was the constant thought in my mind. Now let's look at the questions. Why did he think that he was feeling dizzy due to dehydration? What thought frightened him? What happened to his head and limbs? Pause and answer these three questions. Why did he think that he was having a dizzy spell due to earthquake? Why did he think that? Because the weather was very hot and dry. What thought frightened him? The thought that came dashing in his mind. What was that thought? That it might be an earthquake. So this was the thought. The thought of the earthquake made him frightened. What happened to his head? His head started to throb and quiver. And why did this happen? Because of fear. And what happened to his limbs? His limbs were moving uncontrollably under some mysterious power of their own. So they were uncontrollable. Let's look at more questions. What did he do after that? So once he realized that there was an earthquake, he went back to his home. And why did he wanted to rush back to his home? Because he was constantly hearing the cries of urgency. People were crying, people were screaming. He was listening to all that. And he was hearing that the buildings are falling, and he was worried about his own home. So he wanted to rush back to his home. Although he had walked only a few steps away from his home, but now that he was going back, it seemed that this journey of going back to his home is the longest journey he has ever made. Now look at the next question. He heard three things on his way. What were they? Pause and answer. The three things were cries of urgency, 1, screams of fear, 2, and thunderous roars of what? Of buildings collapsing. Okay, we'll pause here and we'll read the next paragraph in the next lesson. Jazakallah, Allah Hafiz.